Hey everyone. Happy whatever day of the week it is. Wednesday. Hope you're doing well and thanks for joining me tonight. For those of you who don't know me well, I'm Lauren Lefkowitz. I'm a leadership coach and I work with people to escape the trap of being fine because my belief is that there is no such thing as fine. If you are fine, you're actually not fine. Things aren't great and you're justifying that things are fine. I wanted to talk tonight about kind of a bummer of a subject. So sorry. Hope you're joining me anyway. But we're going to talk about grief at work today. It's come up twice in the last week with clients. It's come up with me in conversation a bunch of times since I left my last job. And it's something that we don't talk about, we don't really acknowledge, and it lives in so many aspects of how work affects us. And so just before I get started, or as I'm getting started, I just want to mention that I am streaming through StreamYard to Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And so hopefully that's you found me on there. If you would like to comment, I would love for you to comment. On StreamYard and Facebook, you have to give permission to StreamYard. On LinkedIn and Facebook, you have to give permission to StreamYard to use your name. And otherwise, you'll come up as LinkedIn user or Facebook user. I acknowledge every comment, including one from Juana Porter. So nice to see you here. Thanks so much for coming. And Juana, I said your name wrong. Poireo? I don't know if I've gotten that right, but I'm so glad to have you here. So if you comment and I just say thanks, LinkedIn user, Facebook user, it's because you haven't fully connected to StreamYard. I love for this to be an interactive conversation. And hey, case in point, LinkedIn user. Hi, Lauren. Thanks for this. Not sure who that is, but whoever you are, I'm super glad to have you here. And I'd love for this to be an interactive conversation. It's so much cooler if we're having a conversation than if I'm just sort of talking at you, although I have super interesting things to say, always a lot of fun, but enough about how great I am. So I wanted to talk today about grief at work, grief through work. It's a topic we never really touch on. And there is a lot of grief that comes with any kind of change at work. We go to work every day, we get comfortable or familiar with how things are. LinkedIn user is Lisa O'Leary. Thanks, Lisa. So nice to see you here. I'm so happy to see you. But we get into routines at work. We get into familiar. We know what to expect. And even if something changes, the day changes, we have an emergency at work, somebody calls in sick, an event gets canceled, those sort of little things throw off our day, but they don't necessarily cause grief. But the bigger changes, your manager leaves, right? It was your favorite manager. I have had that happen myself where somebody I really admired left and there was a big hole and they were still alive and human and out in the world and I've kept in touch and but the dynamics then change, right? Then I have a new manager and I have to decide, am I going to like that manager? Am I not going to like that manager? What's going to change in his or her or their expectations of me? And what happens when that manager who comes in doesn't like what my old manager thought was fine? There's grief in some of the good stuff too, right? So it's not just grief about, oh, I lost my job or my manager left or they switched my department without telling me that was going to happen, without giving me an option. Those are all the kinds of things where we expect the cause of upset, but we don't necessarily still expect grief in relation to that. And And then the grief can also come with good changes, right? And so we change jobs, right? We go to a new job and we're so excited about the new job. We've chosen this, we're excited about it. We're getting new responsibilities, new money, new whatever, right? We've chosen it. And yet, when we look back at our past life that we've gotten used to, that we've gotten familiar with, and the people we've seen, whether we're virtual or in person, the people who send us instant messages, or the people who we meet at the water cooler, or we talk to, leaning on their door jamb, we miss them. We're grieving their loss. And while we may carry those relationships forward, in a lot of cases we do, there is a loss to what we know, what we're comfortable with, what we enjoy about our work. And a funny story for me is that when I left my last job, and a comment from Susan Osman, Laura, hi, Lauren, nice words, wishing all the best for you. Thank you so much. So glad to have you here. I left my last job to be an entrepreneur. So I chose a really exciting life. And I chose to leave a job where I had worked myself into 80 to 100-hour work weeks, eventually worked myself out of those through a lot of personal work with my own coach, and started really upping what had been a long time side gig and coaching consulting and creating what is now my business. I could not have been more excited about the whole thing. I could not have been more ready to leave my job. I did all of the things to prepare and get all of the things in order. And I left my job on July 2nd. And so in the US, July 5th was Independence Day observed, which is normally July 4th, but that was a Sunday. So Monday was July 5th. And on July 6th, I woke up, and for the first time, I think in my career, I didn't have to check email. And I got upset. I didn't know what to do with that. Nobody was calling from work. Nobody had an emergency. My career was in HR and operations, and I was always the interim fill-in for some position, some project, something. And so I was needed all the time. I would wake up in the morning and I would check my email, and there was always something that needed to be adjusted. And while maybe I rolled my eyes at the, oh, this is the person who always needs me right now, right? And, oh, I thought I was done with this project and now I've got to move my day around because we have to troubleshoot something. Or, working in HR, you never know what kind of employee situation is going to come up that you have to handle. And when I worked there, those were like little annoyances that interrupted my day. And I sort of yearned for a predictable day where I just went by my schedule and nobody needed me. And then I hit my first day of having that. And I was like, well, now what do I do? Who even needs me? And I already had a book of clients who did need me, but not on an emergency situation, not on a chaotic schedule. And I chose, and I got all of this freedom as an entrepreneur and owning my own business. And I was sad at the same time. And I think that we all feel that when we leave our jobs after a long time or a short time. I mean, there's no sort of limits for how and when grief shows up. I still have periods of time where things are a little bit quieter. I don't have a lot of meetings in a certain week. And I think like, nobody needs me, right? And clearly they do. I'm running a business. And I'm so grateful for the life that I have chosen. But I miss my people, right? And a lot of other people have moved on too. It wasn't just about me leaving the organization. People leave the organization all the time. And we grieve for the choices that we make to go to another company, to go for a promotion that maybe makes us the boss of the people we've been friends with, or that puts us in a position like, moving out of a marketing position into HR. I once moved out of a sales position and into HR. I was in sales for like a really short time because I was really bad at it, but I was nice. So they kept me around, and then they tapped me on the shoulder and they were like, hey, why don't you try HR? We think you'd be really good at it. They were right. 20 years later, I was still in an HR career. But what grief does to us, whether we're choosing our change, whether we're choosing to make something different, or whether it happens to us, which is the more obvious way that grief comes, right? We get let go, we get laid off, or we get fired. We have our manager changed for us. Somebody leaves, somebody new comes in. We have circumstances change. Hey, the budget got cut for what you work on, so we're going to just move you over here and have you do a different job. Cool. Congratulations, you get to stay with the company. Congratulations, you get a new manager. And there's grief in that not getting to choose what your loss or your change is. But sometimes we imagine future grief and we stay in place. And, sometimes we look at it as being stuck or wanting to change jobs, but, it could be worse somewhere else. And those are super real fears and things I work with my clients on is, getting out of the way of being worried that while things are bad where you are, or you're not happy where you are, or you've outgrown where you are, the next thing could be worse. I argue it could also be better. And then we talk about that, what the risks are. But sometimes we avoid change because we don't want to grieve. And we picture this future where we no longer work with Joey, we no longer work with Amy, and we no longer have the opportunity to travel together or to run to lunch together, or in this virtual world, like hop on a Zoom for happy hour and just like hang out and chill with each other. And it's not that those relationships are ending, but they are changing because you would no longer be in the same day to day, right? And so if you're the odd person out now and you get on this same happy hour 2 months after you've left the company, Joey and Amy are talking about something with a new person, and you're like, oh, who's that? What are they talking about? What are you talking about? And it's not the same, right? And so part of the fear of change is it could be worse, or I'm just scared of change, right? But part of it is this potential for grief, for missing people, for missing the job. Well, maybe I don't like my company anymore, but I really like this one part of my job. I get to go to Disney once a year because that's our prize for having the right amount of sales. And now I won't get to go on a Disney trip with my coworkers, which, for one person may not be a big deal, or maybe a burden, or maybe you don't like happiness. I don't know. But for another person is like the thing that keeps you there, even though it's only once a year. And even though it's only a 3-day trip or a 5-day trip or whatever it is, you pre-grieve these future memories that you won't have anymore. Sounds a little convoluted, but what I think about is also that we don't give ourselves the opportunity to grieve because we feel like that's weird. We feel like it's weird to miss our coworkers. They're our coworkers. We feel like it's weird to miss the one piece of the job that we absolutely loved. I loved reviewing benefits. I did not love open enrollment. That is a pain in the neck, and chasing people around to get them to fill out their forms. It's like the worst job of an HR person. But I loved every year getting to work with my broker and see what our options were and how we could make the plan richer and where we could save money so we could spend money. And maybe that's a weird thing to really like, but I don't do it anymore and I miss it. And benefit season came around this year and I wasn't involved in it. And I was like, I miss that. I wish I was doing that. I wish I could tell my employees what one thing was getting better this year, what new benefit we were covering, what, what we chose, or whatever the thing is, whatever the things are that we miss, we brush them off because we think like, I've gone on to something better, and I certainly have. Or we lose our jobs, we get another job, and we're like, why am I still thinking about that job? Or we lose our jobs, we're interviewing for other jobs, and we think like, God, Lauren, get over it. You are done with that job. Why are you still thinking about when they let you go? And the truth is, we all deserve to grieve. There are no rules about what we're allowed to be sad about. There are no laws that say, well, work is separate. You don't grieve over work. You only grieve over friends and family. I say you get to grieve over change. Change brings grief. Any major change in your life, and work is one of those changes. And things inside of work are those changes. Any kind of change can bring grief, even if it's also bringing joy and excitement and future ability and more money and bigger status. Grief is grief. There's no rule that you can't do it. There's no time limit on it. You can be sad a year after you've lost your job. You can be sad 10 minutes after you've lost your job. But our reaction generally is to shut it down because we say like, it's just work. It's just work and it's over and it's behind me and I should be moving forward. I shouldn't be feeling like this. And so we like stuff these feelings down and we just don't talk about them. So when I left work and I was sad on July 6th, and when October came around and I didn't get to tell my employees what our new benefits were going to be, which it turned out they were the same. So it wouldn't have been like such a super exciting year. I only know because I'm on Cobra. I'm not like still involved in the business of the business, but I got sad about missing my coworkers. And it was like a foreign feeling to me to allow myself to be sad about it. And it was one of the things that I brought to my own coach. And it was super weird to realize that I was sad about not being needed in the way that I was needed before, that I was sad about not having the chaos, that I was sad about not opening up a Zoom group meeting and seeing one of the people I liked that I worked with. It doesn't discount the joy of me moving on to something else. It doesn't discount the rest of my life, my friends, my family, my dog, all the things that I do. But we need to give ourselves the opportunity to feel our feelings. And we think we're like adult professionals and we hit some like capacity limit where, work should just be work. But especially in this time, in this place where we are in this mid-pandemic, post-pandemic 2022 world, we get to feel our feelings. And we have more grief overall, right? Because we lost the world that we knew. We may have lost some people we knew. We may have lost access to the outside or group gatherings and all of the things that we really enjoy, that we really like. And work is part of that. So I want to say to you, if you have lost your job, if you've decided to leave your job, if you are thinking about leaving your job, and there is grief in that, let yourself grieve. Think about how you grieve as a human being, how you've related to grief in the past. Reach out for help, support of a friend, support of a coach, support of your manager if you're still at the job and things have changed around you. And really give yourself an opportunity to live in that grief and process it, because it does catch up with you. And I work with a lot of people who have lost their jobs, or they're in a job and things have changed on them and now it's not great. And I work with people who are staying at their jobs because they are afraid of the grief that's going to come when they leave their jobs. And they've been there 5, 10, 20 years It's what they know. It's their comfort zone. It's their familiar zone. And the thought of leaving the people and the projects and the clients and the vendors and whatever else it is that's in that sort of, I hate to use the word family with work, but it's the grouping of people that are your people, that you are used to, that you know what to expect from. And your calendar and your work, and maybe even your laptop has like some attachment for you. And having to hand that all over and say, whether you're volunteering to say it or not, having to hand that all over has grief attached to it. And it's something to be in. It's something to process. And then it's something to get past. And it's not, as you, I'm sure, know from having grieved in your life, whether you've finished grieving something or not, there are points in your life where whatever grief you've gone through may come back. There may be a trigger reminder. There may be another thing that happens that's similar that reminds you of the thing. So grief doesn't have a time limit. But let's not pretend that there is no grief with your work situation ending, changing, shifting, or with you choosing to do something else. And remember that these people are now your network. And if you're on LinkedIn and you miss your vendors and your coworkers and your work friends and your clients that you don't get to work with anymore, you can connect to them on LinkedIn. You can comment on their posts. You can post and reach out to them and tag them. And you can become actual friends with them, which for me is the absolute joy of not being in HR anymore. Because when you're in HR, there's like a little bit of a, separation between you and your coworkers. And my pattern, and I know the pattern of a lot of other HR people, has been like, hooray, I'm leaving. Now we get to be friends. And so for me, while there is grief in not being needed in the same way, and there is joy in what I'm doing now, which I freaking love, I am okay being in both places at the same time. I am okay acknowledging that I miss my coworkers, that I miss the cause that I was fighting for when I was working for a company, that I miss the interaction. I miss the impact that I was able to make in an office full of people, virtual or in person. And also that I'm super joyful and super excited about the impact I make now in this different way. And that impact is only going to grow, and I'm going to impact more people than I even know, and have so much more opportunity because of what I'm doing now. And yet, sometimes I get a little sad. So I'd love to hear from you in the comments as I'm signing off. What did you hear in what I talked about tonight? Where have you grieved a work loss, a work-related loss, or a work-related change that you picked, that you didn't pick? Or what are you afraid to choose? What are you afraid you're going to be grieving if you move out of this position? And if you watch this on the replay, I still want to see your comments because I'm going to keep coming back and checking. Thank you so much for coming by and hanging out with me for a while tonight. And I hope you have a great night. Bye.